we wanted to have a discussion around roles, because we don't all have to have the same roles in approaching and addressing domestic violence.
It's really important that we have both types of forums. I think the forums to bring together Muslim advocates and leaders and people who have been doing a lot of work and have a good understanding of the dynamics of the Muslim community, as well as domestic violence, as well as how to progress a movement forward. I think that that's really important, and I thought that's what this was going to be, and I think that that's a great space to make that plan of where we want to be. And I think for the educational piece, that is hugely important, and for engaging partners and all of those things, I think that should be part of the plan, is bringing those people for that educational part or for that engagement part, to be able to get them on board before asking them to create a plan.
From my perspective, it seems really important that you all not just talk to each other, that you encounter, that you come up against people who don't get it or get it differently. But having said that, this wasn't an open meeting. It was a by invitation meeting, and it was initially going to be only DV advocates, and then we thought, we don't really want to just do that, because the rest of us have to find some way to hear the language that you all use and to be able to speak it enough ourselves to communicate with our groups. So kind of that's how this slightly hybrid notion of what we're doing today happened. But the reason it wasn't an open meeting or a public meeting was precisely because we thought it's really important to get a sense for where the people who are working in the issue believe they are at, and to try to hear their issues with or frustrations with the rest of the community of which we're a part. So that way we could begin to kind of target our efforts better into bridging that gap.
The most significant thing that I have heard today is the statement that we have to collaborate and not feel like we're in competition. And that's the problem that I have seen over the past few years of trying to be involved, is that we continually reinvent the wheel. Someone comes along and feel as if they have the best solution to a problem that's affecting everyone, and then that person has to start from scratch, getting a support group, getting community involved. And what we're really doing is watering down our resources. We talk about the monies, we're talking about the individuals. So if this was going to be a movement of any sort, it would be to establish that collaborative support, so that everybody knows who all the players are. When we were talking, we were going around the room, and we could refer to one another.
We're interested in, first of all, some strategies around planning to plan, i.e. given the range of comments on today and what's the future and how we're making assumptions about either movement or community, how are we going to plan to synthesize that for ourselves? And then secondly, what are we going to walk away with? In the planning to plan section, what do we feel will be our top 3 next steps in terms of where do we want to go? I hear we want to create a movement. Is that our goal, to create a movement? Is our goal to facilitate the collaboration and then see what happens from that and let a movement come organically from that collaboration? So what is our ultimate goal in terms of, at the end of this planning process, what do we want to see?
I'm excited at the possibility of what we can do collectively with people who are from all different backgrounds. I think that so many of the domestic violence advocates who are working in Muslim communities are tired. I think there's a lot of overload, there's a lack of infrastructure, there's a lack of resources. We're basically trying to help our communities with one segment of that, of the community, and that doesn't work. You need the greater community. We need to all be doing this collectively. And every facet of that community needs to be affected. Thinking of it as a movement as well, it's not something new. It's just something that needs to happen. I do believe we're at a point of readiness. Everybody's been talking about it. No matter where you turn, it's in the magazines, it's in the open forums. it's everywhere you turn to. And of course, there have been some horrible things that have happened. So it's really, I just feel we're there and we're ready. And it needs to include everybody's opinion. That infrastructure and those resources are critical. And that's why that second step hasn't happened. That's what keeps us from moving to the second step. I'm very grateful to Dar al Islam for having brought us to the table today. I think it's wonderful. I think, basically hardly any of the DV organizations have the funding to bring the people together and to make this happen. If they're able to take us to the next step, that would be fantastic. That's what we're missing. I do think that we're starting on the right note. I think we do have a good pool. I think it needs to be expanded. And certainly there are all different backgrounds that could be here, but you have to start somewhere. And I think we're starting in a good place. And you asked what and how. I mean, some very basic things that would help tremendously. Follow up, helping to facilitate communication, organizing the process, and funding additional meetings. Those basic things go a long way.
Of movement and collaboration. What we're trying to do is get along the lines through the method that we're going to focus on is collaboration. That's our method. That's one of our process goals, so to speak, is to focus and facilitate collaboration. What we're going to work toward is finding the space, the process, the mechanisms, the approaches of collaboration. It is one of the things that has been reiterated time and time again from 8 o'clock this morning until now. So that is the term that we'll be using consistently and regularly, and just so that we recognize that that doesn't exclude anyone who feels that they are part of a movement. Critical success factors. What I heard from the group, things that were absolutely critical for us to move forward, take that next step and build upon it, is communication. The second thing I heard was collaboration. Although if we want to split hairs, we can argue that it can't be a goal and a factor, but we are not going to split hairs at the moment. And the other thing I heard was infrastructure. In terms of communication and collaboration, one of the things I put under collaboration is the resource sharing. Under communication, I put also resources. How do we find the approaches and methods to communicate our resources? Who's going to be the point person for collecting those resources? Who's going to be responsible for having those resources? One of the things that's permeated again throughout is that we don't all know exactly everything that needs to be out there or enough of it to be able to effectively create definitive and important websites, to be able to go into our communities and take existing resources into our communities. So this becomes a part of the communication umbrella and also the collaboration umbrella. And even the resources also permeates through this. Now, another thing that I raised was funding. That goes to infrastructure. Funding. I put funding under there. I also included mentoring under collaboration. And I put outreach. Outreach becomes a critical part of communication. I'll also put capacity building under infrastructure. When we talk about immediate next steps in the planning, the plan, these are the things we know we have to prioritize around. So we don't have to get too caught up in worrying about, other things. We have to focus on, we can focus our efforts.